Mike Approach to the top of the hour. Sports Bash. Keith Smith, Yahoo Sports, covers the NBA. He'll be joining us here in just a moment to talk a little bit more about this season that's getting ready to ramp up. We know the Sixers will be playing a live scrimmage game here in about a week or so. And, of course, they get back to the NBA restart on August 1st against the Pacers, and you can hear that game right here on 97.3 ESPN. A lot going on in that bubble down there.
Seems that way. Jimmy Butler dribbling the basketball, waking people up.
People snitching on him, too.
Yeah, Rashawn Holmes leaving the bubble, getting
Michael
food.
Beasley was on a team for about 5 minutes. He got COVID and had to go home. Unbelievable. That Nets team just can't catch a break at all. All right, let's get Keith Smith in here. Yahoo Sports joins us weekly for a little NBA conversation, and I want to ask him, Keith, of all the NBA stuff that's going on in that bubble, is Ben Simmons' new role the highest on the depth chart for you?
It's right up there. That or Victor Oladipo, kind of thinking he may try and give this a run and play. Those are really the two major basketball stories that have emerged over the first week or so as teams have got back to practice.
So Ben Simmons, apparently, Brett Brown has come out and said, look, he's going to basically be playing power forward. And then the Sixers today, I don't know if you checked out their little video, but they did the young man no favors by putting in the video Ben Simmons shooting threes. And then another video emerged of him essentially shooting elbow jumpers and threes all over the place. Should we buy into these videos, or are these just the latest of the Ben Simmons tease you saga?
If you bought into the ones from over the summer, I mean, buy in now. You're already in. Why not? But if you didn't, then just, let it go. I mean, these are things, the Celtics put out one of Jaylen Brown making multiple back-to-back half-court shots, and everybody's like, oh, man, look at his range. And it's like, he starts pulling up from there in games. He's probably going to find himself on the bench pretty quick. So I don't overreact to too much that comes out of these videos.
Now, what do you make of the fact that they are, coming out and saying he's going to have a new role? He's going to be a power forward. Shake Milton will be the starting point guard. And I guess that means we're going to see Ben Simmons without the ball running the offense.
Yeah, I think it's big. I think it's the right move. I think Shake Milton's ability to defend point guards, which was something that they had struggled with some this year, despite being in a really good all-around defense. That's huge, and the fact that he is by far and away the best shooter now in that starting group, that's really important as well. And then that removes the clunky fit of Horford and Embiid next to each other, so that's interesting. What I worry about is what they're going to do with Simmons, because if doesn't have the ball in his hands a lot, it becomes really hard because him and Embiid live in so much of the same territory on the court where they're most successful. And I think you have to, let Richardson and Milton do some of the ball handling to get the best play you can out of the two of them. So that's going to be interesting. But I think they'll adopt offensively kind of the role Draymond Green plays. Draymond's a much more willing shooter than Ben Simmons is, even if he's still not a very good shooter. So that'll make a little bit of a difference. But I think you're still going to see Simmons handle it. It's not the old NBA where, the point guard, comes up and sets the offense and, runs pick and roll and all that kind of stuff. It's lots of guys handle the ball from lots of different positions now.
Once Al Horford went to the bench mid-season, Tobias Harris went back to the stretch 4 position, but now moving Ben Simmons there, he's back at the 3. Do you think that he plays better as the stretch 4? Because it does concern me from the mismatch that Tobias Harris provides. I think that 4 spot is a better spot for him on the court.
Yeah, I think it depends on who you're playing. If you're going against a team that's a little bit smaller, I like him at the 3 because I think he can do some of his good work getting in and around the paint and scoring over guys and using his size and strength there. If you're playing against a bigger team, then it starts to, maybe it doesn't matter quite as much. And that's something that, is tough. Ideally, you'd have Tobias Harris at the 4, but when you have him on a max contract and Simmons on, a max extension, which kicks in next year, and then Al Horford on a big deal, that's 3 power forwards, and you can't play 3 power forwards together very effectively, as we found. So I think that's going to be interesting. I'm a little worried about Harris holding up defensively at the 3, but I think what you'll ultimately see them do is Simmons will get the better and quicker offensive forward, and then Harris will take whoever the other guy is, and you'll just live with that.
Keith Smith covers the NBA, Yahoo Sports, of course, the NBA bubble. They will get back to action here in just a couple of weeks now, about 16 days. It really starting to feel real, and that's the Sixers' point of view, obviously. What's your thoughts on Kemba Walker and the Celtics? What did that knee show today? Because, obviously, I think Brad Stevens even admitted that he might be on a minute restrictions.
Yeah, so what Brad Stevens said is they are definitely going to watch his minutes during the scrimmages and the seeding games. He may not even play in all of them. He's certainly not going to play big minutes. But Stevens reiterated again today that despite the fact that they're still managing that knee injury, which was a problem really right around the turn of the year for the Celtics, and it caused Walker to miss time throughout, in leading up to the stoppage in play, that is, that's concerning. But Stevens says that he's not worried about it. He thinks when the playoffs come around, he'll be full go. So I think what you're seeing here is an abundance of caution. We have seen some videos where he's going pretty hard through individual shooting workouts and the like. So I think the team's just really taking it easy with him now to make sure that nothing comes back up, because the last thing you want to do is push him in these games that kind of don't mean a whole heck of a lot for the Celtics. They've only really got to win a couple of them to make sure they stay in that 2-3 line and away from Milwaukee as long as they can. So you're not going to overly push him too hard. You'd much rather have him ready to go when the playoffs start there towards the middle of August.
What exactly happened with the whole Richaun Holmes situation of ordering food and leaving the bubble?
Yeah, so what it sounds like happened with him was he cleared quarantine and was fine from that extent. But what he did, from all accounts, is the hotel where they are at, it's got kind of a decent length driveway up to it, but it's got a sidewalk once you're past the security gate. Well, the players can't go past that security gate. They're not supposed to be out at that part of the hotel. Now, nothing restricts them from leaving. That's something that everybody has made clear over and over again. These are not prisons. If they want to go, they can. And what he did was he ordered food from one of the unapproved vendors. Disney's not going to hold that food. Disney security is not going to hold that food. So he went out. He went past security. He collected that food. When he tried to come back, it sounds like that's when everybody was like, hey, this player was off campus, if you will. And what they do then is it's immediately right back into a 10 days of quarantine. And, you hope that was worth it for, it sounds like a Postmates delivery or something like that, because if this had caused him to miss eating games because of the amount of money he makes, he'd miss about $50,000 a game for each game he would miss.
Keith, if you were to ask Brad Stevens who he would want to match up with in round one, how do you think he would rank his possible opponents?
Yeah, well, first of all, you wouldn't get a real answer out of him. He'd give one of those coach answers where, well, whoever it is, we'll do our best, and hopefully we can win. It's going to be, he's very much one of those coaches. He's not going to give any bulletin board material, so he could be playing me and you and the rest of the crew there, and he'd talk it up like they'd be lucky to win. He's got a little bit of that approach to him, but I think if you could get an honest answer out of him, I think Indiana is the team that they match up best with. And that's if they stay in that 3 spot. If they can move up to 2 and get Orlando, or if Brooklyn can manage to somehow miraculously maintain, that's the matchup they would really love to have. But if they stay in that 3 line, I think they'd like to have Indiana because they've had some success against them. Indiana doesn't have a real good answer for the Celtics because they start the 2 bigs in Turner and Sabonis. That makes it difficult for them to defend Boston on the perimeter.
Now, I know you being down there, is there any scuttlebutt or buzz about some of the challenges of the bubble? How is it being received?
Yeah, what we heard early on when the players first started getting here was a lot of complaints about the food and being stuck in their rooms and those kind of things. I was told the NBA, not so politely, told everybody, knock it off. You need to grow up a little bit here. But what I think was more important is you saw several players kind of fire back quicker than even the other guys stopped with things like, hey, come on, this food's not that bad. It's no different, on those first couple of days in quarantine, sure, it's box lunches and the like, but it's no different than what we normally get when we are, on the team plane. It's boxed up like that. There's a lot of different options. That's the one thing I think guys keep saying is you don't have to eat the one thing. There's all sorts of options you can pick from. So overall, I think the players are figuring it out. The question I have is, once it's past 2 or 3 weeks, which is about the length of the longest NBA road trip in a season, then how are guys going to start feeling? Hopefully at that point, now we're in the game, and it'll start to be like, all right, we're doing our thing, we're back at it, and that won't be such a big deal. I know a lot of the guys are really, they're really enjoying the fishing. A lot of guys are enjoying the golf and those kind of things. So far, it seems to be, delivering on what the NBA had tried to set up for them. And I think, we'll get past that initial bump of, oh, man, now it feels like we're here longer than a road trip. Then it'll go into games, and then before you know it, there'll be family and significant others to join, and I think it'll start to take on a much different feel at that point.
Are the Pacers legit? When you look at their record, it's obviously good, but they don't seem like they have that guy or just that team that can actually win a title. Now, you mentioned that it's possible Victor Oladipo comes back, but even he wasn't playing that well this year in the 13 games that he was on the court. So you just look at that team, and yes, they played well without Oladipo, but are they a legit title team?
Title team's probably a step too far. I think they're below that tier of teams, but I think in that second group of teams that if things broke right, they could, maybe get themselves to a conference finals or maybe even squeak into the NBA finals. Victor Oladipo played better in the latter part of those games he played than he did in the early games. In the early games, if you watch, he was very tentative. He was overly cautious. He wasn't really pushing himself overly hard. So if he comes back and looks like the guy we're used to seeing, that's a team that's pretty good. They've got a good amount of scoring on that group. They understand how to play together. They've got some good playmakers. They lost some depth when Jeremy Lamb, unfortunately, tore his ACL. That stopped that. He was going to be a really key bench scorer for them, potentially even starter if Oladipo wasn't able to play. But they've got guys who really, the important thing is a lot of their guys really know their role, and they stick to that, and they do their thing. So I think they're a good team, but I don't think they're a team that anybody's going to take serious as a title contender.
All right, we know that this all starts up. We hope everything goes smoothly between now and then. And, of course, we'll have plenty more on this NBA restart. Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA covers the league for Yahoo Sports. And, of course, each week here we get ready for that. And by the time we have him on next week, we're going to be another week closer to the start. We're going to have exhibition games rolling, so we'll have a lot more going on as there's still plenty in the NBA. Keith, always appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me. Y'all stay safe, you and yours.
All right, man. You too. And, of course, Keith Smith, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.